Hello Tech Pros, episode 111.
Like you can spend hours and hours just learning stuff, but if you want to become, an industry leader, you need to be creating content. So create more than you consume.
Welcome to the podcast where I chat with professionals who are getting the job done using technology 7 days a week. Each week we start with Motivation Monday. Tuesday is about productivity, Wednesday, leadership, Thursday, technology, Friday, people and communication, Saturday, entrepreneurship, and Sunday, being unplugged. All right, let's get started. Hello, Tech Pros. This is Chad Bostic, and I'm excited to introduce our featured guest today, Ian Paget. Happy Saturday, Ian.
Happy Saturday, Chad. How are you?
I'm doing great. Are you pumped up, motivated, and?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm ready for the weekend, and chilling out, and back to it next week.
Awesome. Very good. Ian Paget is a graphic designer based in Reading, UK. He runs a part-time freelance business called Geek, designing logos as well as running a popular social media group of the same name. In his day job, he works as a creative director. So Ian, this is very, very interesting topic for me today. Very interesting to have you as a guest on the show. I'm so excited to get into this conversation because, we have, I think your story is going to be a lot different than some of the other guests we've had on Entrepreneurship Saturdays on Hello Tech Pros. Because if you've listened to any of the episodes, there's been several people that have just dived right in. They got some startup money funding or investment VC money, or they have been doing their business for a while. You are in the middle of a transition period between going from a full-time career to like part-time consultancy, and then maybe someday in the near future going off on your own and doing it full-time.
Yeah, basically on my side, I have a full-time job, and on the side, I've always been a fan of working on, just fun side projects. So in my case, probably for almost my entire career, I've been working on things that have just been fun. And the logos has been something that's been going so well that it's almost forced me to go freelance. So I think my story would be totally different to the average person's, and I think it could be quite inspiring for some people.
So that's awesome. I can't wait to get into that story. But first, I want to ask you a little bit about graphic design and logo design in general. Now, as my audience probably knows, I come from a software development background, right? Software engineering, coding, very kind of math-based, logic-based, stuff like that. And according to my wife, I have absolutely zero business doing anything with colors or visual design, graphic design, because I'm partly colorblind. I don't know what good looks like, and just horrible at that kind of stuff. So why is logo design why is that so important for businesses to get their logo correct?
Okay, one of the big things that I focus on is goal fulfillment. So with a logo, it's essentially the idea of it is not just something that looks nice, but instead it should represent who you are as a business. It should compete with competition and also attract an audience, and that audience needs to be right. So there's so many different things that a logo needs to do. And if you get those wrong, you could potentially be pushing customers away, or you could be attracting the wrong customers. So, if you're attracting the wrong customers, you're going to get really busy, and you might be taking on projects that are not right for your business. So the idea is to correctly represent who you are as a company, and by doing that, you will get the right clients, and you'll essentially succeed in the way that you want to.
Oh man, Ian, you got me really, really nervous now because I don't know that my logo is properly doing that. And let me fill you in on a little, you and the audience, and on a little dirty secrets of mine. So since we're talking about entrepreneurship on Saturday, there's a lot of different hats that an entrepreneur has to wear. There's a lot of different roles. And when you're first starting out, if you don't have a lot of capital, you have to do some things by yourself instead of like hiring it out, instead of hiring out. So I actually designed my own logo for Hello Tech Pros. And the reason I did that was because I've had probably a dozen different startup ideas that I've tinkered with in the past and spent a lot of money and time and investment like getting the branding perfectly right, and then kind of like the business petered out and I never actually started anything with it, and I never really committed to it, right? So I wanted to make sure that the Hello Tech Pros brand is something that I'm committed to and it's here to stay before I do a big investment. So I just kind of quick and dirty went to Photoshop and I said, all right, I want something that says technology and code and stuff like that. So I'm going to put some brackets around the word hello. And then, you know what? I wanted the word hello and that design to kind of look like a waveform, to kind of look like a sound wave. If you look at a sound wave on an audio file or a drawing of it. And so I did some squishing of the fonts and stuff like that. And what it came out with was exactly what is in my head, and it looks like crap. And I'll just say it looks like crap, and I'm not pleased with it, but it's what I have today. And I know I need to probably change up the brand here pretty soon, or at least change up the logo pretty soon. So you've got my website open, correct? You're looking at. Okay, so give me some honest feedback. Like, what does this logo say to you as a person who sees hundreds or thousands of logos a year?
You got me here.
Don't hold any punches, man. Throw it at me. I'm tough. I can handle it, and I know that I want to improve. This is all about, as an entrepreneur, we start with our minimum viable product, our minimum viable logo, and then we get better and we improve from there. So give me your feedback.
You're taking is exactly the right way to do it, because I've known companies that are startups and they've invested tens of thousands of pounds on all their branding, and they haven't sold a single product. So, I mean, from my side, I think the minimum viable product concept is the best way to go, and it's how I personally started my own things. Like, my very first logo wasn't that great, but, you know, as I've been doing more, I'm far more experienced than what I was when I first started it. So I think doing that is the exact right thing to do. In terms of critiquing logos, I find it quite difficult without doing the necessary research. Like, for example, I haven't been able to look at your competition, so I don't know exactly where you fall in. But so I can purely only judge this on execution alone. But my first impressions is the composition of how it's been put together. There's a lot of dead space in the center. So, for example, in the top right-hand corner, it doesn't look too bad. But if you look at the version of it in the photo, like, there's no real focal point. The hello is a very different style to the Tech Pros. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I don't think it's that bad. I've seen much worse, but I think that the idea is good, but the way it's been executed could do with more work.
Awesome. Cool. That's exactly what I need to hear, right? Is the concept is kind of, okay, you get what I'm going for, but it's obvious. It's quite obvious that I'm not a logo designer, and there's a lot of like technical functional mistakes that I've made in actually implementing it.
I mean, as part of my process, what I tend to do is, like, the very first version I might do of a concept might even look something like that, but I know that doesn't work. So what I tend to do is take a copy of it, rework it, you know, to address those problems. So, for example, how we got the composition problem with there's a huge space in the center. How we got that problem, I might look to address that, and then take a copy and keep addressing these problems until I've got to that final version where, you know, there's no problems with it. And that's when I know it's perfect. I find it's always worth having an incubation period, and not many people do this. But essentially, I'll just leave it for a day or so and then come back with a fresh pair of eyes. And that helps you really just fine-tune the artwork and, you know, make it so it's 100% perfect.
Well, I've had an incubation period of about 4 months now, and this is really the first time. No, it's actually the second time I've thought about my logo since I launched. The first time I thought about it after I launched was I handed a business card which had my logo on it to an individual, and he says, "What does this say?" It says, "Is this supposed to say hello or Nello. I said, okay. Well,
Yeah,
obviously there's a legibility problem here.
yeah, because it might be read as cello or chilioin.
Right,
So
right.
you know, the shapes around it could be mistakenly read as something else.
Cool. Good stuff. Good stuff. Well, another thing that you pointed out there that I really liked is you're talking about how you start with your basic design, your basic MVP on your logo, and then you iterate through it, and you come up with okay, there's a styling problem. Obviously, there is a spacing problem. So in software development, we call that technical debt, right? We live with what we have, and then slowly over the course of the product, we iterate on it and we improve it and we address the issues that are in the technical debt. Sounds like you're
Yeah,
doing the exact same
absolutely.
thing with graphic design.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, like with logos in particular, if you have a good concept, um, you might not be able to execute it properly. You know, some people have a problem where, you know, they've got this really good idea, but it just doesn't work. So it's all about, you know, spending time to make that work. And, you know, sometimes you need to do like 10 versions of the same thing just to get it perfectly right. But yeah, you're very much right there that, you know, concept is the primary, you know, thing that you want to be working out, and then of course, you know, execution is secondary to that. So
Awesome. Well, I feel like we're spending way too much time talking about me and my brand and my logo and not enough time talking about your story. So let's jump right into that. So how did you go from, you know, as a graphic designer in a full-time job to start working on some of this stuff in a consultancy position?
okay, so in my free time, ever since I've been working, I've always enjoyed working on side projects. So, you know, from my younger days, you know, this might have been like illustrated books or you know, film posters or you know, music CD covers and so on. But as I matured, so to speak, I started working with a few friends on an iPhone game, and that was probably one of the biggest, most exciting projects that I've worked on in my personal time. But that was such a long, drawn out project. It took about 4 years to work on. Um, so after that, I felt quite drained, and I made my mind up that I didn't want to work on any side projects. And it was probably about a week later or 2 weeks later, I had that hunger again to carry on working on some sort of project. But after working on a long-term project, I know that that was in the right direction for me to take. Something like a logo, now that's something that I can take on and I can turn around quite quickly. So a logo project is normally never longer than 2 weeks. So I can take on a project, and if I need a break after that, I can. So it's a really practical project to be working on in my free time. So when I first started this, it was just working on logos for friends and families, almost just, you know, just as a hobby. So at that time, I wanted to create a website. So I started just by looking for domains. And after hours and hours of searching for something that was available, I came across logogeek.co.uk. And from that day, things have kicked off in my life. So I created a quick website. It's like you said, it was just a minimum viable product. I just stuck it on there, took a day, threw something together, started putting portfolio bits on there. And then something weird happened. You know, I threw this together. I had no idea that anyone would ever look at it. But I started to get inquiries. You know, they started to drip in slowly. So, you know, from that first day, I remember that day when I actually got an inquiry from someone I didn't know. You know, that was pretty amazing that I was able to charge someone just, you know, money. They would pay me to actually do some work. So that was quite exciting. And it was kind of from that day that the site slowly grew. That moment really changed things for me. So from then I started focusing on the website, like started to improve the content, started to write more blogs, started to do a lot of social media marketing. Fast forward 3 years, I get way more inquiries. I've learned a lot more about logos. I've grown a large social media following, and it's almost got to a point where this fun side business, so to speak, could be hugely profitable for me. Like, I get a lot of inquiries, and even though in my career I never intended to go freelance, because of the volume of inquiries coming in, and because I'm now seen as an influencer because of my social media work, I've got this unique opportunity, to do something on my own. And the only way to do that is to literally step out of a day job. Now, I've been in my day job now for about 7 years. The company are quite reliant on me. So in terms of stepping out completely 100%, I've always felt a little bit nervous to do that. But now what I've agreed with them is that I would do part-time and then gradually fade out, which is a really good opportunity because it allows me to find my feet, and it means that I'm in the position with that company to train up other people that come in and so on.
Ian, what struck me about this is the thought that professional people who are respected, who get the job done, they're in demand, and they're in demand both in the corporate world by employers as well as by customers who just want the same results that the employers do. And so you're in a very unique position right now where you're in demand on both sides. Your full-time employer wants you full-time, but you know what? They'll be respectful of you. Sounds like they're great people to work with, and they'll allow you to step back to a part-time position rather than lose you altogether. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, you're also building up the demand on your freelance side of doing these logo design on the side, and that's building up where you have a couple of days a week, 3 days a week where you can work on this. And when you're ready, I think it sounds like you're in a position as soon as you kind of turn on your social media marketing and say, all right guys, I'm going live, this is my full-time deal, like send me what you got, I am open to taking your requests. Sounds like those floodgates could just open up for you.
Yeah, I think so. I think in my case, the big thing that I need to kind of work out is how I can grow what I'm creating, because there's only a certain number of projects that I can realistically take on each month. But in order to grow what I'm creating, I would need other people. So as part of Logo Geek, I've got a social media group called Logo Geek as well, and within the space of 3 years, I've grown that to about 7,500 followers. So in terms of logo related social media groups, it's almost one of the biggest in the world. And thanks to that, I've got a community of people that I can reach out to. But it's gonna take me time to work out processes and things to work with other people, but it's an exciting thing. At the moment, I'm focusing on turning around logo projects in those 2 days, but because it is only 2 days, there's only a limited number of hours in the day. But I think it will grow gradually over the years, so we'll see how it goes.
So I was going to ask, I could see you going into two different spaces. One would be having a team of designers that work for you, and you would be like the creative director or the partner that kind of manages all the consultants that work under you, and you would kind of manage their work, do the client relationships. Discover what it is that the client actually wants, and then have other people actually do the design work, and then you would have creative control over saying yes or no or whatever. So that would be a natural growth for this particular business.
So. Yeah, right? I agree. I think eventually, I would rather get the company to that position so that if I want to take some time off, if say I want to go on a 2-week holiday, I'll still be able to continue taking on projects and keep up the momentum. But at the moment here today, because I got projects booked out for a number of months, if I did want to take that 2 weeks off, I would have to plan around that. So it's not so easy to duck in and out of it. Literally, I'm almost tied to this I'm always tied to the business to some extent. So doing that, I think longer term, that will be better for me personally. And it will also mean I'll be able to scale what I'm doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Because then you've got not just, I don't know, 40 hours, 80 hours it takes to do the logo that you would have to do for every single client. But now if you have a team of 10 people doing those logo designs, well, you're spending 2 to 3 hours per client. And now you have an entire team of people that are spending those 40 hours a week on each client. The question I have there for you is, how do you feel about the management application, right? So currently you're a contributor in the role that you're in, the company that you work for. Do you have any management or administrative background where you're like managing a team of people to do this?
I do, yes, because in my day job, I manage a small team. So there's a couple of guys that I essentially need to manage, and in my role, I just essentially need to allocate them work. So, project comes in, allocate the work. I need to check over it, approve it, and then it gets sent to the client. So in terms of that process, that's something that I've actually been quite familiar with in my day job. Bringing that over into my business, I guess the one challenge would be finding good people that I can trust and rely on that will take that project and apply the process that I created. Because like I said, logo, it's not just a pretty picture, but there's a lot of people out there that will take that approach. Whilst I prefer the direction of goal fulfillment, which I feel is, a more intelligent way of doing it and a more complicated way of approaching logos. So for me, I think one of the biggest challenges will be finding those people that can fulfill that for me.
Awesome. Great. So you've got both the hands-on experience as well as the management experience. So I think you're in a really, really good position here to really grow your consultancy, grow your freelancing business by bringing on more designers that work for you. Another opportunity, I don't know if you're considering or not, but I'm sitting here looking at your site, looking at your posts on Twitter, and you've got a free ebook, the 50 logo design tips from the pros. Now, have you thought about branching out into more of the information product space where you're teaching other designers or teaching people who want to get into logo design how to build their own business or how to become logo designers?
I think it's interesting that you raised that, because one of the things that I'm keen to do as the business grows is work on two areas. So there would be the service side of it, working on logos for companies, and that would be the way that I would make money. But then there's the other side that I enjoy is the social media work, creating content and so on. But obviously that doesn't directly make any money, but it does take a lot of time. But what I'm working on with that is leveraging affiliate marketing so that I can monetize what I'm doing and eventually maybe even focus on that full time. My ebook that you mentioned, the reason why I've introduced that is because for the past 2 years in my free time, I've been focusing on growing numbers on both Facebook and Twitter. Twitter's been a massive success for me. I've got a huge audience, and I'm engaging with those people on a daily basis. Now, I've grown a huge audience. My concern is these platforms I don't have any control of. So one day Twitter might suddenly just vanish. So I might spend the next 5-10 years building this audience like 1 million. And then in 10 years time, Snapchat's the big thing and no one's on Twitter anymore. So what I want to do is essentially turn that following into an email list, because I don't see email going anywhere anytime soon. So I think the value of an email address is more. So my focus for this year is turning that following into email subscribers. That means that should any new platform come out, what I can do is I can just send those people an email, let them know, and hopefully I'll be able to pull over a lot of these people into whatever that new platform might be in 10 years' time.
Yeah, I've heard it say a lot in the last couple of years. I've been studying online marketing. Two phrases that come out. The first one is the riches are in the niches, meaning you really have to focus down on one particular element. So in your case, you're talking about logo design. You're not talking about just graphic design or visual design in general. You're specifically talking about logo design.
Yeah,
and then the other one is the money's in the list, right? So the riches are in the niches, and the money is in the list, meaning you have to have that email list to own the engagement with potential customers.
Yeah, absolutely. So something like a Twitter post, you can put a lot of effort into sending out a tweet, but at the end of the day, even though I've got that large following, in reality, probably only about 100 people see it. Because, a lot of people, they're not online. A following on a social media account doesn't have that much value. You're very much relying on them, looking for you through their feed at exactly the right time.
Right.
Like I've heard numbers like a tweet has a shelf life of like 28 minutes. So it's there and then it's gone. So that doesn't have much value. But an email, you send an email, okay, people get a lot of emails and they might throw them away, but they're more likely to see it. So if you write content, create content, which I do, and you want to get it out there, I personally think that email is the best way to go about doing that. Especially if they trust you and they look forward to your content. Like if you don't send too much content and you only say, send one a month, I think that will have a lot of value for those people. They will look forward to it coming in and they will read it. Whilst the tweet, they might not even see it, but they might be interested. So that's the reason why I'm focusing more on building a list.
I think you're spot on there, Ian, because to your point, whether it's on Twitter or Facebook or any of the other platforms, whatever you post, that company owns, right? They own the engagement, the relationship between you and the potential reader.
Mm-hmm.
And they decide when the reader can visit it and see it, and when it will fall off. To your point, it may last for 28 minutes. It may last for 28 seconds. They may say, it's not trending, so we're just going to ignore it and let other people's posts. But when you send an email, yes, they may delete it, but it is an action. It is a decision that individual, that recipient must make. Not Twitter, not Outlook, not Facebook, right? But that individual, that recipient has to make of, I'm going to delete this, or I'm going to read it and then delete it, or I'm going to read it and then take action on it.
Absolutely. I'm quite a big fan of building personal relationships with people. So, contacting people on a one-to-one basis. So my thoughts is that if you're able to get that across from day one with that person, whether it be through, a social media account, if you could get that, I think that they are more likely to open up that email anyway. And, hopefully they'll be looking forward to that content because it is genuinely relevant to them.
Awesome. Ian, in just a moment, I want to ask you about how our audience can take their 9-to-5 job or their passion that they're currently working on and turn it into a successful business. But first, we're going to take a quick break and thank our sponsors. This episode of Hello Tech Pros is sponsored by Minio Cloud Storage. Minio is a cloud object storage server for developers and DevOps written in Go. The Go programming language is the emerging language of choice for modern cloud infrastructure projects, and it allows Minio to be highly concurrent and lightweight. Minio is Amazon S3 compatible, built with microstorage architecture in mind, but at its heart, Minio is simple, scalable, and supported by a passionate developer and user community. In episode 89 of Hello Tech Pros, I talked with A.B. Periasamy, one of the founders of Minio, about the importance of community support and recruiting software developers who are as passionate about their product's code as artists are of their art. Check out that episode at hellotechpros.com/89 and check out Minio Cloud Storage at minio.io. That's minio.io. Okay, we're back with Ian Paget, graphic designer who is also the logo geek. He's known as the logo geek at logogeek.uk and logo geek on Twitter and other social media, blowing it up and doing big things, and is about to move or potentially about to move from a 9-to-5 job to now he's doing kind of a part-time, 20 hours a week, 30 hours a week at his day job, and then doing some freelancing, and is ready, almost there to go full-time into launching this business as a full-time effort. Now, Ian, what I'd like for you is to maybe give us some tips on how we can take our passion project or the things that we're good at and turn that into a successful consultant, a successful freelance or online business.
Okay. For me, one of the biggest things that you have access to at the moment is the internet. So what I would focus on is creating a website. So in my case, I created something very quickly. So, once you got a domain, you can, just quickly put something together, get something on there. And then as you progress, you can keep improving that. Like something like a website, every improvement progresses on something. So from day one, you don't have to have, the perfect website. You can just have a single page there. So just get something online. I personally use WordPress. So if you go to wordpress.org, there's instructions on how you can install that so that you can own your own platform and essentially create your own content and so on. Content creation is probably one of the biggest things that you can do. So things like writing blogs. Writing blogs allows you to become like an industry leader, so to speak, because people will read your content and they will be able to learn from that, and they will associate that knowledge with you. Okay, I would say the next part, again, for me that's being successful is using social media platforms. And my main focus has been Twitter. And with Twitter, essentially what I've been doing every single day is posting out content that is relevant to my topic. So my website, my service, and so on is around logos. So every single day, I'm sourcing content that other people have created and sharing it through my account. So even though I'm promoting other people's content, people who follow you associate that with you. So it means that, you can kind of take the kudos of other people and, you use that to your advantage. So one thing that I've found with social media is from day one, you're not going to get that much engagement. You need to keep working on a daily basis and, don't skip a day. So for me, I've probably been working on my account for 3 years continuously. And over that time, just posting twice a day, relevant content, and gradually day by day, you start getting 1 or 2 followers, you start getting engagement and so on. So just keep working on it. And trying to think of another tip. Personally, I think, the more you do online, like as I said, as you keep blogging, as you keep creating content, and as you keep sharing it out there, with time, you get good Google results and, your increased following. I'd say one thing that's worth learning with the internet is starting to understand what's called search engine optimization. So if you do some Google searches for SEO, you can actually learn tips so that you can get good Google results. So things that you need to do are to optimize for Google. Sorry, Chad, I could go on for hours about this.
No, this is good stuff. Good stuff. So give us just a couple of tips on what you do specifically to optimize for SEO.
Okay, so for SEO, there's essentially on page and off page. So on page, obviously you've got the content. So the content, if there's specific keywords that you want to optimize for, that needs to be through the page. But obviously you don't want to use the same word throughout. So for example, in my case, I might want to, optimize for the word logo. I wouldn't want to just say logo, 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 logo. There's other words that are associated to that. So things like icon, symbol, and words like that, they're associated to it. And if you scatter these words throughout your content, you can trick Google's system into seeing that as an optimized piece of content in relation to that word. So there's the on-page content, which includes what's written, structuring it properly, so using title tags like H1, H2s, H3s, and so on, including images in there. A good blog post is generally around 1,000 words. So, 1,000-word page of content is going to be pretty credible information. You need to have metadata in there. So metadata is invisible content that only Google will see. So when you do a Google search and you see in a list, and with each result there's kind of like a heading and a piece of text underneath, that's metadata. So you've got the meta title, and that's the title that you will actually see in Google. And what you want to do is put in the keywords that you want to appear on Google for within there. And then the second side to it is off-page. So things like backlinks. So the more relevant or authoritative links that you can get from other websites will help to remove what's ongoing.
So take us back a little bit to the social media. So you're saying that for the last 3 years, you've been posting 1 to 2 times a day on Twitter, and in that 3 to 4 year period, you've grown your following up to 77,000 followers. So is this a manual process where you're going out and finding unique content every single day and posting that? Or do you have any tools or automated processes to post this content for you?
Okay, there are ways of automating social media, but if you have a true interest in the topic, you're naturally going to become familiar with where that content can come from. So even though I'm sourcing like the latest content on a daily basis, it's not taking me hours to do. Like I've got a mental list of good blog sites that are creating good content. So what I can do is check through these different places and essentially take a copy of the link, write a quick post, add an image, and post it out. And that takes probably about 10 minutes a day. So, in terms of how long I'm spending using social media, it's probably only around half an hour. So it doesn't take time. Of course, it takes time to know where to find those things. But once you've done that initial work, it doesn't take time. I am using tools as part of my process. Buffer's quite useful. I used that a lot when I first started, because what Buffer allows you to find content and you can add to a queue. So like say if you only have like time on a Monday, what Buffer allows you to do is schedule your post throughout the week. At the moment, just because of the way that I'm doing it, I'm able to just post out directly without using these tools, because I generally manage my social media in the morning, probably about 7 a.m. whilst I'm having my breakfast. I'll find something, post it out. And then again in the evening, I'll find something, post it out. So at the moment, I'm doing it in a manual approach, but there's lots of tools out there that allow you to automate the entire thing.
Awesome. Well, Tech Pros audience here, don't get stressed out if you've kind of, gotten overwhelmed by all the great information that Ian is sharing. So I'm going to be posting all of the topics and the links that we've been talking about today on the show notes page for this episode. So right after we close out this episode, I'll announce what episode number it is and what's the link to get to this page. And then you can get access to all of the websites and the tools and the information that Ian has been talking about today. Ian, before we go, could you share some parting words of wisdom for our audience? The best way that we can connect with you, and then we'll say goodbye.
Okay. I think one thing that I've really taken on board this year is to create more than you consume. Like you can spend hours and hours just learning stuff, but if you want to become, an industry leader, you need to be creating content. So create more than you consume. In terms of contacting me, you can go to my website, logogeek.uk, or you can follow me on Twitter at logo_geek.
Awesome. Ian, thank you so much for joining me on Hello Tech Pros today. I really value your insight and wisdom and appreciate you taking time out of your busy Saturday to spend time with us.
Okay, thanks, Chad. Appreciate it.
You bet. And Tech Pros, man, think about what Ian's saying here. Create more than you consume. How much time do you spend on the internet, on podcasts, watching and listening and reading? And that's all good stuff. That's all very valuable. It gives you a great amount of like foundational knowledge that you need to build your business. But to grow it and to really like make massive results, you have to take massive action, and that requires getting out and actually doing the work. Either, whether it's creating the website, creating blog posts, creating podcast episodes, doing freelance logo design, whatever it is that you're doing, you just have to get out and start working on it. Don't sit around and wait forever. Get out and start creating. Create more than you consume. You've been listening to The Logo Geek, Ian Paget, and I'm the podcast geek, Chad Bostic. And until next time, take care. The show notes page for this episode can be found at hellotechpros.com/111. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a review, subscribe to this channel, and check back tomorrow. This has been Entrepreneurship Saturday, but tomorrow my featured guest and I will not be talking about work because it's Sunday being unplugged. On Monday, we'll get motivated once again to face the week with Motivation Monday, followed by Tuesday, productivity, Wednesday, leadership, Thursday, technology, Friday, people communication, and Saturday, back to our entrepreneurship. And I'll talk to you tomorrow.